A quienes se vienen sumando en estos últimos minutos,
People who
le
are
damos la
joining
más cordial
us
bienvenida.
now in these last few minutes, we want to welcome you.
Aceptado esta invitación y
We want to
tenemos la
thank you for
oportunidad.
accepting
En un
this
par de
invitation
minutos
and for being on
vamos a
time.
empezar
In just a few more
oficialmente
minutes, we will
este evento.
officially start with
Los
this
saluda Pedro
event.
Garret, coordinador de
This is
proyectos
Pedro
e
Garret
investigador del
speaking,
Centro KIX
project
LAC.
coordinator and
Voy a tener el
researcher at
gusto
the
de
KIX Lab
acompañarles
Hub.
en esta sesión.
I have the pleasure of
Les voy
being your
anticipando que la
companion
sesión
today.
cuenta con traducción simultánea
I
en
just want to let you
español
know that we will
y
have
francés
simultaneous interpretation during this
en este
session
idioma
for
de
both
preferencia.
English, Spanish, and
Tenemos también
French, so please
interpretación
choose your preferred
simultánea
language using the
simultánea.
interpretation button that you will
También
see at the bottom
en
of
el
your
chat
screen.
pueden ir colocando
On the
sus
chat,
nombres,
you
el
can write down
país
your names,
el que representan
the
y la
country you're
institución del país que
representing,
vienen.
the
Y nos vamos
institution you're
conociendo en este
representing, and
rato.
your position so that we can get to know each other. Thank you very much.
Marion también nos saluda desde Belice.
Marianne is saying hello from Belize, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. Rodrigo, from the Union of Workers of Education Workers of Guatemala. Nadia Maxwell from Santa Lucia, from the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Jessima Cooper is also saying hello from the Ministry of Education of Santa Lucia. Thank you very much as well. I believe we have enough quorum in order to get started with this session. Okay, so good afternoon to each of you. Welcome. We want to thank you for accepting this invitation. Once again, my name is Pedro Garret, project coordinator and researcher at the KIX Lab Hub. I have the pleasure of being your companion during this first part of this workshop, Teacher Professional Development at Scale, Strengthening National and Regional Initiatives through a Teacher Empowerment Approach. First of all, I would like to provide some important information. This session has simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, English, and French. For this reason, we request you to choose your preferred language using the interpretation button that you will see at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, send them using the chat of this platform. Later, we will have a dialogue space and exchange space where we hope to have some active participation from all of you. Today, we have a very diverse audience from different countries of the region and representatives of the Ministry of Education, civil society organizations, academia, teachers' unions, and others. This is something that makes us very happy because this diversity of points of view enriches dialogue. During these first few minutes, I will ask you to use the chat, as you have been doing so far, to share with us your name, your position, the country you're hailing from, and your institutions you're presenting. It is great to welcome you to this introductory session of this workshop for teacher empowerment at scale, strengthening regional and international teachers using this approach, which is part of the KIX Lab cycle, which is focusing on reflection, collective action, and strengthening of a culture of evidence use in Latin America and the Caribbean. As you know, in this 2026, we have a focus on practices and teachers' policies. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me tell you a little bit more about the KIX Labs Hub and what we understand on this idea of knowledge mobilization cycle. At KIX for Latin America and the Caribbean, LAC, we have created a space for collaboration and exchange for the strengthening of teaching leaders from Belize, Grenada, Guatemala, Guyana, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Lucia, and many other countries. This is an initiative that has been fostered by the International Alliance for Education, GPE, the International Hub for Research for Development, IDRC from Canada, and led by SUMA, and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean Countries, OECS. We want to strengthen research, public policies, and pedagogy by fostering spaces for dialogue and exchange where knowledge is shared and used to guide concrete decision making. What we do here is having different workspaces throughout the year. We start by listening and collectively organizing ourselves, something that we did in January of this year. And then we have exchange activities, such as this here seminar, some other workshops for different institutions and key actors in the region, and also knowledge sharing activities. The idea that we want to have today to talk about teachers' practices and policies is not just a coincidence. For some time, we have working on a different an agenda which has been defined by you. This has been ratified by collecting information in different countries of the KIX Lab Hub, where teacher professional development is one of the most important topics as reported by yourselves. The KIX Lab Hub doesn't work isolated. It is part of an ecosystem of regional projects and initiatives. It is within this context that we have this here activity, ETI, because of its acronym in English. We want to strengthen teaching practices in the Global South, strengthening equity, quality, and efficiency of the teachers' professional development programs. This program is led by SUMA and the Foundation for Education and Technology Development of Information of the Philippines. ETI is organized based on three main pillars: knowledge, skill strengthening, influence on policies and practices, with the objective of fostering systems for teacher professional development which are more effective, inclusive, efficient, and sustainable. As part of this effort, together between the KIX Lab Hub and the ETI Center, we want to generate a cycle for learning in order to strengthen the skill of key actors within the region, in order to strengthen and consolidate teacher professional development initiatives from a systemic, scalable, and contextualized perspective. Focus on evidence in order to use conceptual and methodological resources of the ETI project and the TPD at Scale program. As part of this introductory session, we expect that participants will understand what's the point of scaling teacher professional development in the region, what concept, methodologies, and resources are contributed by the ETI approach and the TPD at Scale initiative, and what work will be done before, during, and after this session of the workshop. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the team of the ETI program is led by Dante Castillo, sociologist from the University of Chile, and he has a master's degree from the London School of Economy and Political Science. Dante has worked for different entities, both in the public and private sectors. In the University of Chile, he worked in education and citizenship, and at the Cambridge University, as a researcher of higher education policies and the use of information in enrollment processes for higher education. Dante is now the director of SUMA's Department for Policies. We also have Daniela Mongada, who is a joint leader for Latin America and the Caribbean, and Rocio Vidal, who is the officer for impact of ETI for Latin America and the Caribbean. Without further ado, I offer the floor to Dante, who's going to guide us through the main contents of today's session. We're listening to you, Dante. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Thank you, Pedro, for the invitation. Thank you, colleagues who are joining us today in this meeting. We have considered this as a workshop from the very beginning. The idea is to reflect, to share experiences. And this is a workshop that we have been conducting with other colleagues from the region. And our goal is precisely that, to share experiences about teacher professional development initiatives. And when we talk about this, essentially we're talking about teacher development that is continuous, permanent, and in the service of communities. This is precisely what we have been doing as part of the ETI initiatives, which is supported and funded using IDRC funds. So we know that this is one of the most relevant topics for you. when we consider its connection with initial or elementary teaching, as Pedro said in the beginning. What we're going to do in this space and what we want to propose is that we would like to have a sequence of 3 workshops where we can share some concepts, think about some programs, innovations, practical cases, experiences that are happening in the region. We have worked in this framework with other countries, getting to know some experiences from Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Honduras. And part of the exercise has been looking at what's happening in the region. So we will have 3 workshops, 3 work sessions. Am I sharing the screen? Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could please share your presentation and move along the slides. Sure, no problem, Pedro. I'll do it myself. Just 1 second, please. So, as I was saying, this session is part of the mobilization cycle, as Pedro mentioned, and what we hope is that we can generate a space for reflection and to share experiences in the countries that are part of KIX LAC. Just to provide some focus of what we have been doing, some context, I will briefly share with you what we have seen in the region regarding challenges for teacher professional development, which we will call the crossroads of TPD. We call it the crossroad because there's a lot of tension here. There are a lot of challenges which have to do with teacher professional development, especially when it's at the service. This is a crossroad where there are some specific coordinates to consider. There are many teachers who drop out of the profession, that quit. The issue of professionalization, especially considering initial education and the new demands placed upon the teachers when it comes to what it means to work in complex classrooms and diverse classrooms. So we're at a crossroads, and several of the studies that have been conducted in the region demonstrate precisely that. How teachers and demands placed upon teachers have to do with a central challenge for our educational system, such as, for example, the learning crisis. The skills when it comes to reading and writing, reading understanding, math, according to international and national assessments and standardized tests, are showing that there's a problem when it comes to learning. You know better than myself that this has been called the crisis of learning. Teachers are expected to respond to these demands. Alongside, we know that in the region, and this is shown in the latest report, that we will need more teachers. In the region right now, and Latin America and the Caribbean, we have more than 7 million teachers, and several of them are quitting the profession. And we need to cover that need in order to achieve the 4th goal for sustainable development, the 4th SDG, which talks about the quality of professional careers in teaching, how we can ensure that the skills of teachers are at the core of the improvement of learning. And a 3rd element that's important is that several of the countries you belong to and that we are observing in the region, teachers are facing new demands, which demand rethinking the profession, more diverse classrooms, the consequences of migration. Teachers oftentimes have to face and deal with children that come from diverse and culturally different contexts. All that has to do with technological development, AI. This has been very strong in the educational debate, 21st century skills, new pedagogies, and how we think about pedagogy and training teachers in pedagogies that have a bigger impact on students and socio-emotional learning, socio-emotional skills for students and teachers alike. So this is a scenario that we know is more complex. Faced with this situation, countries are doing something, not only ministries, but also organizations from civil society, the academia, all of them are doing and developing teachers' professional development programs in service, continuous professional development in order to offer education to teachers or teachers' education so that they can get updated when it comes to their skills. So that's the crossroads we're at right now, or the crossroads the region is at right now when it comes to teaching and being a teacher, being a professor, depending on the country, we all have different terms for teachers. So, what is the teachers' regional strategy telling us from UNESCO? It said precisely this. We are facing a very important challenge, and part of this key challenge is how we can strengthen our teacher professional development programs, focusing on skills, the coherence between initial training, continuous training, how do we offer continuous training, and so on. But what's the scenario that we have when we look at the region and when we look at what's happening in the countries and teaching in the region? We find things such as, for example, low social valuing for teachers, which is reflected in highly precarious work conditions, low wages, several jobs at the same time, a professional career that is not very much professionalized. So there are demands and challenges which are important, and the degree of coherence. This is something that we have seen in several countries of the region. Teachers get trained with certain skills, but these are not the ones that they are going to find on site when they are working in a school, and how we can better articulate that coherence between what they learn in their initial training and what happens when they are in service. What are universities doing when they are preparing professionals, thinking precisely about the challenges of training and the teacher's profession as a whole, or the role of teachers in decision-making processes? When do they participate in the definition of public policies? There are different unions and guilds that try to raise the voice of teachers in order to participate in the definition of decision-making processes for those educational policies. All are topics that the regional strategy demonstrate that this is happening in the region right now, and these are challenges that we need to face and make progress on.
The work we have done from SUMA, the work we're doing in this specific program, initiatives of empowerment of teachers, has to do with this idea. How can we advance toward development systems which are professional, which are equalitarian? The idea of quality and being equalitarian, not losing of sight efficiency, has been a question which is fundamental. So the professionalization, it is a core pillar of the work that we have been developing. If we think in the challenges of the teacher's development, we have worked for quite a long time. IDRC in Canada has supported this for quite a long time. It's been a core topic of the support agenda and international cooperation from IDRC from Canada, in order not to lose sight of the teachers dimension in the policies in order to improve the educational system. So we have been participating as SUMA, as an organization, in a coalition for more than 7 years, 8 years. And what we're seeking for is gathering different players, moving evidence, getting to know experiences which are successful, good practices, in order to support, collaborate with countries, ministers of education, in such a way that systems can be strengthened gradually. And that's important, the way they are built, how we build programs and policies in the long run in different scales, not only small initiatives with some positive effects, but those good initiatives or those initiatives are offering, which are offering good education and quality training, some for teachers, I mean, there can be done in different scales, thinking in the education system as a whole, in order to reach 50,000 teachers of one country, 5,000 of some other, 280,000 teachers in some other countries, according to the skill the countries are having, because it has to do with this agenda in order to advance in the improvement of the educational systems. So what we've been doing in the last 3 years, it's an initiative which is really beautiful, fruitful. We have been working with different countries in this global south. Some colleagues that already know this initiative, and they have been somehow part of this part of this program and this initiative of applied research or investigation for development, as we would call it in our international jargon. So what it wants is working in countries of the global south, and that is called Empowering Teachers Initiative in order to empower teachers. And what it wants, it is working with low-income countries, medium-low countries. I mean, Latin America and the Caribbean are most of them, just a few of them are having a high income. And since we work in these countries, I mean, they are highly fragile. And we have difficulties in order to offer programs of a good quality for teacher training, which are equalitarian. And when we say this in the research, which is part of the framework where we want to include or have this workshop, it is basically, we're saying this because we are considering this context and the challenge that we do know. And research shows that information gathering that we do in each of the countries show this, that there are some groups of teachers who are facing, they're marginalized, they are missing or lacking opportunities for improving their quality of in teaching. Groups of women. We know that there are some groups of teachers, women, teachers who live in remote areas, and they work in educational surroundings with different languages, and therefore in multilingual environments, and they have a training in a certain language in which they are teaching, and it is not what the language that students speak. There are some teachers with no formal studies. Some of them are in the process of certification of their skills or competences. There are teachers in multi-grade, multi-level classrooms. We have seen, and literature shows, research shows, teachers with some disabilities or some special abilities. And there are some of them working in different conditions. So the diversity of teachers requires training, different trainings, taking charge of that diversity. And the question is, I mean, it's here about equality. How can systems then, in the different countries, are acknowledging that diversity in such a way that systems at a scale can be equalitarian with these multiple populations of teachers? An example that we always mention in ETI, our program, in the project, is that sometimes many countries or their systems, what they do, it is saying, we're going to have a course, online course, and the teacher, anyone can access to it, and that seems to be equalitarian because it is available for everyone. But probably teachers living in remote areas with low connectivity, they cannot access to those courses. So how can we design, how can we think those systems so they are equalitarian? Not only equalitarian for people to access to them, but also they should be of a high quality. So we have been working for the last 3 years. It is answering one question, which is quite simple, rather simple, but it is powerful. What's the question? I mean, how? The question is how can systems and programs get adapted, or how can we have innovations in the teachers training or the programs for teachers training in such a way that they're effective in empowering teachers in their skills and competences, professional skills. So they should be inclusive, egalitarian, and also of a high quality. So those teachers can improve their teaching in the classroom, the work they do in the classrooms. So we say, we have seen, and we have seen it in many different countries where we're working at, that there are some key elements of what things should be done. Sometimes it has to do with the curriculum of a teacher, the way his training, it has to do with the materials. And later I will give some hints of what we have been seeing, what we have observed in the research, the work we have done with countries, of those key elements in terms of adaptation, innovation, in the programs, training programs, which can help to combine equality and quality, quality in the training. And that is going to translate into, I mean, in teachers having better conditions in order to do their work in the classroom. And that should be done at a scale. We can learn from local innovations, small ones, but the question is, and the challenge which we're talking about, where we're advancing, is how can we escalate this? So that's why we're asking about escalation. And that is a key question. So what we do with ETI, it is a multi-component initiative, creating knowledge, strengthening capabilities, and doing some influence work, contributing with innovation, supporting teams, ministries in this work. And we're doing it with Latin America, the Caribbean, and also in Africa and Asia. And the three continents, in these three regions, we have been working in multiple projects for collaboration. And this workshop we thought it would be a good contribution and a collaboration, quite interesting one, in order to work with KIX LAC and with the countries belonging to KIX LAC in order to identify good cases, identifying that you, the ones who are participating in this workshop, we have a certain approach so we can look our systems of professional development, identifying their strengths, identifying their weaknesses as well, and somehow use some notions, some knowledge of the professional development for teachers at a different scale in such a way we can have a diagnostic of our system. So that's what we're thinking. I mean, so that's why we believe it should be a workshop. And we should also think in how we can improve and advance. And what we have done is develop these three lines of work, getting knowledge with applied research, strengthening capabilities. And I'm going to tell you now about a course about DPD, Professional Development for Teachers, and you can access it. It is also part of the goals of these three sessions, telling you about this course, telling you about a document, analytic framework, a kind of lens framework through which we can see our systems and we can have a diagnostic from that of our educational system. And we can influence and boost countries from ministries. We can think or rethink about the programs and policies for professional development for teachers, having as well these three principles that we have just mentioned: quality, equality, efficiency with the allocated resources. Not thinking that oftentimes we can have additional resources from abroad, but the idea it is making the most and being more effective with the resources that have been allocated. So here we are. We're working in all of these countries. So there's plenty of information that we are producing in the program, which comes from Africa, comes from Southeast, Vietnam, countries of Philippines, Thailand, India, countries where we have been working with Rwanda, Zambia, Sierra Leone. There are some teams working there. And in Latam, we have also worked with some countries such as Argentina, Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, so on and so forth. So we have tried to organize and create this grid of work, network from the global south in order to identify innovations which are providing good results when trying to improve teacher skills in the development stages for professional development in this continuum. These are the three elements that we are observing with close attention: equality, quality, and efficiency. And when we talk about equality, we're saying how all of these different groups of teachers are going to participate and have opportunities for professional development. Groups who are working in remote areas, teachers working in multilingual environments, teachers with disabilities. So how can systems give them opportunities for professional development? That's point number one. Number two, quality. What does it mean? It's just having a course, a 40 hours, 30 hours course, because it is set by the regulation, by the ministry, in order to obtain a certification. Is that it? And check? Or what we're doing is thinking in those training spaces with an impact on what the teacher is going to do in the classroom. How is he transforming the teaching practice? That is the approach of this, because we know that in the region, these programs, training programs, mean certifications, and that's it, and a score, and that is important in terms of accountability. Accountability for the careers, different careers, professional career systems. But oftentimes the question is, how much of that is impacting the way in which the teacher understands his work and understands what he's doing, or is he transforming what's happening in the classroom with this notion of this pedagogical nuclei interaction with students, the core of it. Second element, that is quality, how much teachers learn. And third, how can we properly use resources so the efforts being done by the ministries or the collaborations between ministries, universities, foundations, so on and so forth, somehow are cost effective as much as possible. So with this, we will try to have a guideline towards developing programs which get to the most of teachers and diversity of teachers, which we're having in our different systems, educational systems. What do we have? What do we do? How do we think about this? How do we think this TPD at scale? This idea of the professional development for teachers at scale, it has to do with a question which is quite simple, which combines three elements. It combines the elements related to literature about the effective DPD, and this is part of literature. There's plenty of research about it. So, what does teaching being effective? There should be collaboration. It is practice-oriented, so on and so forth, right? And there is a component there, DPD, which has to be effective. What should those programs have? Many courses are done following those guidelines, which is what the research has been or has shown, which is strengthen teachers' capability. So the challenge is, can be done scalable for the whole system when we see diversity of teachers, and the question now it is different. How can we create that learning at a different scale? And how can we build and offer opportunities for those teachers, inverted commas, with more difficulties for access? And that's a key question, access at a scale. And the third element that we say, and this approach is always covering, has to do with the specific challenge of the Global South. And there's an element that we have considered, in general terms, it is included in our initiative both in TPD at scale and also at ETI, it is the role of technology. We know that oftentimes technology can have a role in terms of allowing access to teachers who are in remote areas, using a Moodle, an application in Moodle, which is there, and you can have it at a certain mobile device, a cell phone, for instance. And you can upload it, people can follow or be in some courses, and they can also have some feedback amongst peers, so on and so forth. So technology can have an important role. Sometimes low technology, we don't really need high technology to do so. And a social network could also be useful in order to strengthen processes of practice communities, or professional practices of communities of practice. So the focus, what we have been working on, and some of the things that we're going to show you now, have to do with this invitation to be part of this workshop. And this is related on how we're going to include these elements into the debate, the conversation. What have we learned? I will mention some things. Learnings are so many that we have had in the program. Let's say with the ETI program and with the work that we have developed I mean, for so many years, but especially this we have been covering related to the question related to adaptation and the question about innovations, and how that it is done at a scale. I will mention just 5 ideas that have arose, which are important for us, and it is important for us to share with you all. So we say, for instance, that there is a program there are some programs being developed which are for teachers training at a different scale, which have as a pillar acknowledging teachers as agents with capacity of election and autonomy, so they can make decisions. Many programs are done so teachers follow instructions with little space for decision making. So there we see there are some programs that we have seen that place the teacher at a position of an active agent. So he is provided with agency. We have seen some programs which introduce adaptations, and this is really interesting, at a working material elements or by processes, spaces. I mean, the materials are in different languages. They're having online resources. If they can access to it when they are facing some different situations and challenges with their work, when they work with the students. And some programs use some braille systems for teachers who are or are trained with this sight impairment. So the materials they're working with somehow make their work easier and their training easier. But that means thinking in the needs, specific needs of the teachers who are in that situation when we're talking about diversity. Or initiatives such, in the case of Argentina, we saw some cases, example, I'm combining countries we're working with, different countries in the global south, and we're covering and seeing those types of solutions and innovations or adaptations. In the case of Argentina, we saw that there was a program where teachers got organized to have a space in order to take care of children, or some specific aid with tutors and accompaniment for teachers who are working in indigenous areas and multilingual areas, or as I said, teachers with any disability. So those are programs which somehow show that we need plenty of adaptation, conceptualization, in order to answer the needs of those teachers.
We have seen programs with localization capabilities. There are ministry programs which are massive, but at a local scale, they are adapted. They are localized. Also, specific times of the day allocated for training, accompaniment, maybe by other teachers, creation of practice communities, spaces that make this training of the teachers easier. Adaptations focus on changing beliefs. This is also essential in teacher professional development and their work. What does it mean to be a good teacher? These are beliefs that are deeply rooted in society. And transforming these ideas of good teaching is difficult. You are going to find resistance in teachers. When you work with teachers, you can observe it. Oftentimes, the systems do not invite teachers to deviate from the norm that is written down. You have to be very clearly aligned with this accountability perspective of what the teacher does. How do we enable teachers to work with that professional judgment, those adaptations that have to do with their context? This is something that we're doing and seeing, and access programs as well. There are a lot of access programs for teachers in rural, remote areas, indigenous communities, and so on. This is what we have observed, and this is what we are doing, systematizing all of this information. So what do we want to tell you? Excuse me if I overdid my time, but this was important information. So we have this learning cycle, this KIX LAC learning cycle, and the collaborative work that we are conducting. And the invitation that we have for you, what Pedro was saying at the beginning, is for us to think together about the current challenges for the teacher professional development programs in our countries. How do we think about these? How do we approach our systems? What are the positive aspects? What are the weaknesses? This has a very specific perspective, a perspective focused on the improvement of the systems. What could we introduce? What changes could we do? Sometimes they are small changes, tweaks, but they can be important at the level of access, equity, opportunity spaces for training. So we have developed this space of 3 sessions. And this is the first one. This is an invitation in the end. And we wanted to tell you about what we have been doing. And we will have 2 additional sessions. Pedro will tell you more about that. He will provide you more details about those coming sessions. And essentially to have these conversation spaces. So, excuse me for stealing so much of your time. This will not be the case in the future. Don't you worry, I won't be the only speaker in the future. There will be other colleagues participating. We will have practical work, applied work, reviewing case studies. You can tell us about cases that you have observed or where you are participating. And maybe if some colleague wants to do it, they can tell us about an interesting case. And we as a group can discuss it. And we can also show you resources that we have developed within the framework of the work that we have been doing in order to give some context to the analysis and also to prepare for the coming sessions. Specifically, I want to show you 2 specific resources. One of them is a course and also an analytical framework, a framework for analysis, for diagnosis and assessment and analysis of the system, and which we have already used with some countries. So I would say that we have a goal for these workshops, and we have 2 goals, 2 main goals. First of all, to critically look, and I want to highlight the word critical, to critically assess our teachers' professional development systems or initiatives that we have in the countries that are participating of this session with a focus on scalability, scaling up these systems with equity, efficiency, and quality, identifying strengths, weaknesses, and also opportunities for improvement for institutional programs. So this is a space for us to discuss, to have a conversation, to reflect, to think together, and to participate of this experience, to see what we can learn from others for our own systems, to build a space. And I believe this is very important, to build a space for learning, collaborative learning, regional, sub-regional, whatever. Some other colleagues have already participated of similar instances of work within the project and what we do in Summa and these mobilization cycles. There's a strong focus on peer learning, how we can learn from our peers by fostering the exchange of experiences and ideas, which allow us, all of us here in this session, to think about development, because we all work precisely on teacher professional development. So there are 2 resources that we want to share with you, and hopefully you can look at them, review them, to look into them in detail. We will have meetings in June, another one in September, and maybe November. So if you dare, please look at these resources, because they contribute to this approach that I'm pointing out to. We have a course for teacher professional development at scale. This is an open course. The idea is that for us who work on these topics and you who are participating are encouraged to look at the materials, look at some cases that might be interesting. It also introduces these notions that I'm presenting right now. Several cases there are initiatives around the global south, Latin America and the Caribbean, Asia, Africa, and in some way or another they show what other countries are doing. And the second resource, it's an analytical framework which operates as a self-assessment that we built at some moment, a document starting from a prior experience, from prior research. We constructed this analytical framework to assess teacher professional development systems, which could be useful to look at our own system. So, I want to show you the course. Let me know if you can hear it, because this is the course that we wanted to tell you about.
Innovation in Teacher Professional Development is a set of free interactive multimedia online courses that provide a framework and analytical tools for strengthening teacher professional development programs and systems. The courses draw from the latest global research, evidence, and innovative practices at the intersection of teacher professional development, learning at scale, and accessible, contextually appropriate technologies. Blending theory and practice, the courses are designed for senior officials in ministries of education, policymakers, TPD program designers and owners, funders, and other stakeholders such as NGOs, universities, and research institutes. In these courses, you'll explore Global South models of TPD at scale, large-scale teacher professional development mediated by information and communication technologies, which you can adapt for your own contexts. The courses feature diverse authentic case studies of TPD at scale from 22 Global South countries, including the Philippines, India, Uzbekistan, Zambia, Rwanda, Ghana, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Honduras. You will be guided step by step to analyze TPD in your context based on the 6 pillars of TPD at scale: policies, ICT, supporting capacities, partnership, learning design, and communication channels. The courses will help you to develop a TPD at scale plan, strategy, or policy brief tailored to your needs and goals. You'll explore how to choose online and offline digital resources, such as mobile phones, tablets, and messaging and social networking tools like WhatsApp and Facebook to meaningfully engage large numbers of teachers. And you'll gain insights into how to effectively balance equity, quality, and efficiency in TPD programs and systems. You can work through the courses flexibly, on your own or in a group. There are points for reflection and discussion with colleagues, and an optional section for a facilitator. The courses come with digital badges and certificates of completion. Hosted by the UK Open University of the Open Learn Create platform, these courses are available in English, Spanish, French, Russian, and Arabic. They have been used and adapted by education professionals and practitioners throughout the Global South. We invite you to discover this collection of free online courses from the TPD at Scale Coalition for the Global South and join the movement for capacity strengthening, innovation, and system improvement in large-scale teacher professional development.
Bueno, bueno, ese es el video del curso.
Well, that was the course video. So we invite you to participate. Part of the resources that the course has is precisely this analytical framework, which allows us to take a diagnostic look at teacher professional development programs in our countries. As said before, we have used it already, and it would be interesting for you, this new group, joining this meeting. If you're interested, we can work on it together so that we can look at our own TPD programs. So, I've been talking for 40 minutes. And now, we wanted to share this space with you, with some colleagues that might want to show some cases, experiences in the region, and maybe we can talk and have a conversation. I don't know, Pedro, what do you say? Thank you, Dante, so much for this introduction, this basic information, in order to be all of us on the same page. This is very important and valuable. You have summarized what the ETI program has been doing, everything that has to do with TPD at scale, the resources that are open, and which will help us to speak the same language, be on the same page for the next sessions, and which frames the workshop that we want to have. So with this in mind, we are moving on to a fundamental moment of this session. You are now going to be the protagonist. This is a space for dialogue and for exchange, an interactive space so that you can share concrete experiences from your countries, and we can share some reflections, some lessons learned, relating to some of the aspects that Dante has mentioned: equity, quality, efficiency, scalability, and some initiatives of TPD that have been conducting in your context. We will have three big moments. First of all, in a free way, raising your hands, some colleagues, we hope, from some countries of the region will share with us, in a nutshell, some of the main takeaways, main points from your context. We could have maybe 2 or 3 interventions, no longer than 5 minutes each, as examples. After that, we will be divided into groups. We have a nice quorum for Spanish, English, and French. So for this reason, we will have a group of people who will stay here in the main session, the people that speak English and French, and we will create a breakout room with the people that speak Spanish so that we can have a group exchange. And after that, we will have a summary in the plenary session. So, first of all, I'd like to know, I'm seeing some people, Mario, Ruiz, from El Salvador, at the TPD program. We also have Yvonne Howell, from the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology of Belize, Nancy Alarcón, from the Ministry of Education of Guatemala. Maybe one of you would like to start this off by sharing some ideas with us? I'm seeing people from the Ministry of Education of Honduras, from the Secretariat of Education of Honduras. Any of you, would you like to participate freely? Hi, hello, good afternoon. Hello, Mario. I'm doing great. Well, I'll break the ice, okay. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Good afternoon, everybody. Speaking about TPD from El Salvador, this is talking about educational transformation in a very strategic sense. Participating of this space is undoubtedly very important to us because it allows us to connect ideas which at the regional level are being presented in order to improve the teacher's profession. So I would like to share two important points with you about what we're doing in El Salvador when it comes to teachers training, which are the two most important efforts that we are doing in the Department of Training. As you might know, in El Salvador, we're having important transformations at different levels. And education is not part of that. We're not lagging behind. We're also at the forefront. So this is a big bet on early childhood. So we have a very clear starting point. Education is transformed in the classroom, but it is not done alone. It requires accompaniment, leadership, resources which are relevant and timely, adequate to work that the teachers are doing. And we have noticed that teachers, when they have information that allows them to connect what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, they are motivated. And their inner call comes out, and they can do what they do best, which is teaching. So when it comes to early childhood, we are focusing mainly on that, and we're also having a big milestone. This year, the First Lady launched a new curriculum. So this new curriculum also entails a training process which seeks to transform teaching practices in order to implement the curriculum as it was declared. So, the professional development program wants to reach 100% of the teachers of early childhood, which is about 10,000 teachers. And right there, we have 100% of the teachers. So we have 100% of the teachers who are now being trained. So this is a milestone for us. I also want to say that this process has a very important face-to-face aspect, although it also considers remote work. However, we are focusing on accompanying teachers. So within the learning process, made of several modules, there's a mentoring process. This is one-to-one work during 15 sessions across all 5 modules, 3 mentorships for each module. So we are working with the teachers. We want them to participate of seminars, workshops, which are also face-to-face or in person for each module. And we're also focusing on collaborative work. So we have practices, training, teaching communities so that the teachers can share the knowledges that they are acquiring through the training program. So undoubtedly, sure, the process within the framework that we are mentioning, it has a high quality. The implementation has the benefit of an international certification of an institute from Barcelona. So this is a plus that the teachers will get at the end. But the quality is very, very high, and the replicability and the scalability, you might know that the costs are quite high. It's difficult to do something as what I'm just mentioning. However, this is a big bet that we're doing to accompany each teacher so that they do not feel alone, and to create a new curriculum which is going to be adequate. And the other strategy that I would like to mention is one that has a high quality, because this is what sets us apart as a ministry. And it is sustainable, and it can have a big scope. Within the strategic planning of the ministry at the very beginning and at the end of the year, usually times are allocated for training explicitly. So the beginning of the year starts with a moment where teachers can prepare in order to start the school year, and we as leadership make use of that space in order to provide the guidelines in terms of teaching, in order to implement the curriculum, and all the guidelines required for the first few months. So it is important for us to have that space because that's where we can guide them and provide clarity in the expectations of the ministry. And now, this is what I wanted to mention, is that we have been very progressive when we have declared some ideas in order to strengthen teaching practice through the use of materials which are deployed digitally, massively, 100% to reach 100% of the teachers, except for early training, because early childhood, because they have their own plan. And it includes roadmaps to strengthen the teaching practice and mechanisms for evidence presentation by blogs. Currently, we are at the 10th block out of 20 because it's all throughout the year that they do some very short readings, and we have been able to decipher that combination when teachers make sense of these materials, but they are not drowned in their day-to-day of their classes, and they have new conceptual frameworks that can be translated into innovation.
So these roadmaps are also accompanied by different elements which position concrete topics in a clear and brief way, and we tell what and how. So I believe that discovering the way in which each teacher understands the alignments of a ministry, it's the ministry of each of the countries, it is important. And it also shows empathy for the ones who are in charge of education, knowing, getting to know the context of the teacher and how they can truly understand the alignments which are being presented. So in order to build from that base, and the one who's writing shouldn't really think that because he's writing for himself, he should write for the audience. So the two initiatives that I wanted to share with you, that is what I can highlight in this step. Thank you. Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. Thank you for breaking the ice, for your intervention, for giving you the main characteristics of those two strategies. We have taken notes. So now we're going to listen to some other experiences. From Honduras, they're requesting the floor. They want to participate. So Lourdes, you've got the floor. Good afternoon.
Gracias. Me escuchan, creo,
Thank
¿verdad?
you. Thank you.
No, no te vemos.
We can hear you. We cannot see you, but
Tengo
we
problemas
hear
porque
you.
tengo mucho resplandor detrás de mí, por eso no puedo,
Yeah, I cannot really turn on the
puedo,
camera,
presentarme con la cámara, pero
but
sí agradecer el espacio.
I want to thank for this
Honduras,
space.
se ha
Honduras,
remitido para el tema de formación muy
it is
formalmente con tomando en
formally,
cuenta la evidencia
I mean, it's
para
considering
la
the
toma de
evidence in this
decisiones.
field for the
Nos
decision
encontramos
making.
con dos
So we
desafíos
are
grandes en
having
el
two
tema
big
de formación y
challenges
uno es
when training
cómo voy
teachers.
a
One is
formular la
how are we
oferta
going to
formativa
create a
y la otra cómo
pedagogical
voy a
offer,
implementar.
and how are we
Son
going to
dos
implement
desafíos
it?
grandotes,
Those are two
enormes,
big challenges.
pero en el
But
desarrollo y en
the development
el posicionamiento de
and the
investigación es
positioning
cada vez
of
más
research,
fuerte, creo
it is
yo,
stronger and stronger
en nuestra secretaría.
in our
Y en ese
secretariat,
sentido, pues se
in
han
our
hecho
department. So in that sense, we have
estudios
done some research
grandes que nos están diciendo de la
which
población en
tell
general y por
give
nivel
us provide us with
educativo
information about the
cuáles son las necesidades de
population
formación.
and the needs of
Y ahí,
training of
pues, en
teachers.
algún momento
So in
se
that
pueden
sense,
compartir los datos, ¿verdad? Pero sí
we may
se
share that
muestra a
information with
nivel
you
de
all,
metodologías,
but
a
we're showing
nivel de
some
habilidades
methodologies.
blandas, se
I
reclama
mean,
mucha información en
skills,
este espacio.
we
Y a
require
nivel
plenty of
tecnológico
training
también ellos están
in order to develop
reclamando, a
skills.
nivel directivo
Teachers are
podría
also
resumir
complaining
esas son
or
las cuatro
requesting
grandes peticiones que
training
se
in
tienen.
technologies. Those are the
También
biggest requests.
la formulación de
Formulation
programas y no de
of
cursos
programs
aislados
and not
también.
isolated courses. That is
Y
also
luego, por
something
otro
that
lado,
teachers are asking
la
for. And
estrategia que se
also the
vaya a
strategy,
utilizar para la
which is going to be
implementación,
used for the
porque
implementation,
cuando
it is also
intentamos
important
llegar
because when we try
siempre
to
de lo
get
macro o de
from
arriba hacia
macro,
abajo, se nos
I mean, top
olvida que
down,
realmente
we
quien
sometimes
tiene que
forget
decirnos
that
qué
the
es lo
one
que
who should
necesita y
tell us
cómo
what
le
they
tenemos que
need
atender es
and
el
how
de ahí
we
abajo,
should
el
serve,
centro
it is
educativo, el
down there.
docente.
It is the
Y
teacher at the
creo que
school.
las experiencias de
So the
investigación
experiences
que
of
se han
research,
tenido
which have
están
been
sirviendo de
carried out,
base
are
para la
a
formulación,
useful
para el
base for the
trabajo que se está
formulation and the work which is
realizando
being
en este
developed.
momento, ¿verdad? Hoy por hoy no
I mean,
vemos
nowadays,
liderada la formulación de,
the formulation
de la oferta formativa
of
y
the
de la
offer and the
de
strategy
formación
of
sin
training
la vinculación directa con
cannot
las
be
evidencias que
isolated.
generan
We need to
las,
include the evidence provided by
los estudios,
the different
los
research
estudios que se realizan para conocer las necesidades de
that are being
formación de
done
los
in order to know
docentes.
the needs of teachers
Y
in order to develop
bueno,
and
en
improving
este
their skills.
sentido,
In this sense,
tenemos también
we
el
also
reto,
have
nos ha salido
a
por ahí a raíz
challenge.
de la investigación, un reto grande para la
There's a
formación de
huge challenge
tecnólogos.
for the
Y
uh,
aquí, pues lo
training
ponemos en
of
la bandeja
novels.
también para ustedes. Yo quiero aprovechar
And
esta
I want to
oportunidad
take this
porque tenemos
opportunity
esta necesidad
to tell you that we have a
de una
need.
estrategia para atención de
We need a
jóvenes y también
strategy for helping the
en
new
general el plan
teachers.
de
So in general
formación.
terms, the training
Tenemos estudios que nos están
plan, there are some
diciendo
researchers
que
telling us that
pudiera darnos más impacto porque hasta el
what is
momento yo
going to
no
be more
sé,
impactful, because
me
so far,
imagino que
I
nuestros países
imagine that
vecinos
in
son los
our
que estamos
countries, neighboring countries,
participando
are the ones participating here.
en esta reunión. No sé si compartirán
I don't know
experiencias como
if you
las
share,
nuestras,
if you
donde
are going through the same
también
situations as we are,
tenemos una cantidad
where we're having
importante
an
de
important
docentes
amount of
matriculados,
teachers who
pero
are
no
enrolled,
es la misma cantidad
but
la que
it
estamos
is not the same
egresando los
amount
cursos. Y entonces,
which is finishing their
atendiendo
courses.
a
So,
esta interrogante y a esta
trying
necesidad,
to answer these questions and trying to
es
serving
algo
these
que
needs,
nosotros estamos
then
trabajando
we
en este
are
momento.
working
Como les
hard.
digo,
And as I told you
lo
before,
que podemos mencionar
what
como
we can tell
experiencia
you as an
válida de
experience
compartir es que la
and what we can
evidencia
share with
nos
you is
está
that the
orientando
evidence, it
realmente
is
a qué
guiding
y
us
cómo llegar
to
para atender
what
esas
and
necesidades
how to
desde el
get
docente.
to our goal in order to serve and
Muchas
improving
gracias,
the skills
Lourdes,
and competencies of teachers.
compartirnos
Thank you,
la
Lourdes. Thank you
experiencia
for
desde
sharing
Honduras
the
respecto
experience
de
from
esta
Honduras
radiografía, digamos, de los
and
principales
for
retos.
showing us and telling us the main challenges
Nancy,
that you're facing. Nancy
Nancy Alarcón de Guatemala quiere
Alarcón from
participar. Nancy, te
Guatemala.
pido un segundo
Nancy, just
porque
1
para
second,
después tener
please.
un balance,
So we
queríamos
can,
ver si quizá alguien
we want to know if someone
desde el
from
Caribe,
the
¿no?
Caribbean can
Gente de Santa
also,
Lucía que nos está
people from Santa
acompañando,
Lucia together
pero
with us.
también recientemente se ha incorporado
And
al
recently,
Centro KIX LAC Belice.
Belize also joined KIX LACs.
También hay muchas personas
And there are many
representantes que nos
people,
están
representatives,
acompañando
who are together with
de
us
otros
today.
países. No sé
There are some
si
other
alguno de
countries. I don't
ustedes
know
se
if
anima
any of
a
you
comentarnos un
would like to
poquito.
comment a little bit.
Algunas preguntas también están en el
And there are
chat.
some questions there in the chat.
Nos comparten un poquito quizá algunos aprendizajes,
And maybe you can share some
reflexiones,
learning, some
desafíos
lesson
que
learned,
vienen teniendo
challenges,
sobre iniciativas
which you have
vigentes
had
relacionadas con el
for
desarrollo
the
profesional docente.
professional development of teachers under the current policies.
Sí, justamente Yvonne Howell de Belice.
Yvonne
está
Howell from
levantando su
Belize?
mano. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Yvonne, for joining us. The floor is yours.
Yvonne,
Yvonne?
you are
¿Tiene el
muted. You are
micrófono
muted.
cerrado?
Yvonne,
Hi.
you are muted. Yeah, yeah.
Hi.
Thank you very much for having us in this medium. It's a good way to bring us together so we can learn from one another and even support each other in this region. In regards to Belize, I can share two things that we have recently started. One is what we call the Teacher Learning Institute, which is a Moodle platform for teachers, where teachers the Moodle platform serves as a centralized online learning environment for teachers at all levels, at the pre-primary, primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. There are some challenges, however, I can share those probably in the other workshops where we can do some more discussions. But the Moodle platform is something new for teachers. And so after COVID-19, teachers had to start to relearn how to teach online, or change their mode of teaching from face-to-face to online. So because this platform is fairly new to teachers, we are still experiencing quite a lot of challenges, how to navigate the platform, how to use it for the betterment of our students, so that they can continue to enjoy learning. With that said, for the teacher learning platform, it offers flexibility, where teachers in Belize no longer has to wait until the summer, which is August. August was the designated time for all teachers to engage in professional development programs before they start the new school year. Now, they no longer have to wait until August. They can participate in programs all year long through the Moodle platform, which is called the Teacher Learning Institute. We do offer programs that are self-paced, that are synchronous online. We offer blended programs. And we find that teachers use these programs at their own timing. And that's the reason why I say that, it offers flexibility for our teachers to engage in learning in a more meaningful manner, as well as at their own timing. That's one. So that is just a brief introduction of the TLI platform, the TLI Moodle platform that teachers use to participate in professional development programs. Second, the type of courses or the type of programs that we offer. Prior to the Teacher Learning Institute, which is the Moodle platform, prior to this, teachers used to engage in professional development program based on solely attendance. And with research, it has evolved over quite some time now. So rather than looking at instructor-led teaching, we are more focusing on capacity building, we are more focusing on CPD programs, more short courses rather than a one-day training. If we, I have read the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paula Freire, who no longer, use the word training and looking at teachers as empty vessels waiting to be fed. No, we are no longer in that era. And so we are moving towards a more process-oriented capacity building programs where we try to work with our providers to organize programs that are more process-based, engage the teachers in practice. We call it job-embedded programs where we want to see the teachers learn something, then go back and use it in the classroom. You have follow-up activities, come back for another, 2 or 3 sessions so that there is a process of learning rather than just a one-shot activity and that's it. We move on to another program per se. No. All right. And so over the years, or because we are young, we have been struggling. We have been trying our best to take professional development in Belize towards this path. However, we have been experiencing quite a lot of challenges. One of them is the monitoring of quality. How do we know that these teachers are putting into practice what they are learning? How do we know, the support or that they need for us to help them? We do not have the personnel, the resources to help us in that way. And so we are faced with quite a lot of challenges, and it is a new era for us in regards to using technology, using the teacher learning platform. And so, I do have quite a lot of ideas that maybe I can share, some of the strengths and challenges, but I know you have workshop 2. I think that we will be engaged in more in-depth conversation. So this is just an introductory part of what Belize is doing in regards to professional development for teachers. One, we are utilizing a Moodle platform that engages teachers throughout the course of the year during their own time. It's very flexible. We offer different types of professional development programs, different modalities, and two, we are moving towards a more structured, oriented programs rather than a traditional one-shot, one-day training, as we would call it here in Belize.
Muchas
Thank you
gracias.
very much.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Yvonne, for joining us and sharing this experience from Belize. Thank you so much. Ahora, justamente Nancy, que también estaba levantando la mano, le doy el pase. Desde Guatemala, Nancy Alarcón, quien es su directora de formación del recurso humano educativo. Adelante, Nancy.
Hola, buenas tardes, qué gusto saludarles, qué bueno tener la oportunidad de coincidir en estos espacios que al final también son espacios de formación, ¿verdad? Y estaba por decir Centroamérica presente, pero ahí les dieron la oportunidad también a Belice de participar, ¿verdad? Si no nos hubiéramos ido en esa misma línea, creo que casi que poniéndonos de acuerdo. Pero bueno, realmente es muy interesante y es inevitable no identificarse tanto con lo que decía Dante como lo que han expuesto los profesionales de El Salvador, de Honduras, de Belice. Y al final es bien interesante ver que los países de la región, pues estamos como en esa misma línea y segura estoy que vamos a coincidir también en esos desafíos que tenemos. Y pues esas acciones que estamos realizando, para mí es una dinámica bien interesante porque aunque no estemos del todo comunicados, son acciones muy similares, ¿verdad? Y entonces, pues esto solo me da la pauta de decir, tenemos un contexto muy similar, tenemos pensamientos muy similares. Nosotros acá en Guatemala, una de las políticas que pues ha permanecido durante el tiempo, porque ya va aproximadamente 17 años de estar implementado, es el Programa Académico de Desarrollo Profesional Docente. Nosotros acá lo expresamos como el PADEP, ¿verdad? Y pues insisto, es una de las políticas que se ha posicionado de las más relevantes durante estos 17 años y hemos tenido pues resultados de aproximadamente 40,000 docentes que han pasado por este programa de profesionalización. Al final es una formación continua porque está dirigido para docentes de nivel primario y preprimario, pues, que están en servicio, ¿verdad? Y también, pues, ha ido escalonando, como bien lo decía Dante, ¿verdad? La importancia de hacer este escalonamiento, cómo hacerlo. Y este programa ha tenido esa bondad, ¿verdad? Hoy por hoy, pues, ya se tiene no solo el nivel de profesorado, sino también el nivel de licenciatura, y que a este nivel, pues, han pasado 9,000 docentes, ¿verdad? Entonces, insisto, es una de las acciones pues que se ha ido escalonando y también estamos incursionando en el tema de docentes de nivel básico, ¿verdad? Tenemos el PADEP para básico y pues realmente pues este programa, el diseño responde a la necesidad de transformar la práctica pedagógica en el aula, articulando pues la formación docente con la implementación efectiva del currículo nacional base. ¿Que hay desafíos? Sí. Y que quisiéramos que todos los docentes pues adquirieran la naturaleza con la que ha nacido este programa, evidentemente sí, pero sabemos perfectamente que pues no a todos podemos llegar o a todos podemos transformar Yo siempre he dicho que el contexto en el que cada docente se desempeña, de verdad que es bien complejo. Es bien complejo y poder tener todas esas acciones y poder proteger su actuar, fortalecer su actuar cuando hay unos desafíos que de verdad uno se queda como, ¿cómo puedo hacer para apoyarle y que incluso pueda desarrollar su ejercicio profesional de la mejor manera? Y por ahí pues comparto alguna experiencia en donde en una oportunidad un docente se me acercó y me dice, yo quiero hacer bien mi trabajo, pero el mismo padre de familia en una zona roja no me permite hacerlo, porque entonces estoy corriendo un peligro, ¿verdad? Y son desafíos que aunque quisiéramos desde el Ministerio de Educación poder proteger, realmente es increíble, pero pues se sale de nuestras manos, ¿verdad? Y lo pongo ahí como ejemplo, como bien lo decía la profesional de Belice, ¿verdad? Yo sé que eso ya vendrá en una segunda etapa, pero lo pongo ahí sobre la mesa pues para que veamos que sí estamos en un contexto muy similar. También otra de las acciones que tenemos actualmente es que estamos, ya venimos un poquito hace más de un año incursionando en realizar webinars y lo vuelvo a decir, es inevitable no identificarse con lo que decía Dante, ¿verdad? O sea, es una oferta en la que todo el que quiera se puede conectar. Pero ahí tenemos el desafío en pensar, bueno, ¿y qué pasa con aquel docente que está en una región lejana y que no tiene el acceso al Internet, ¿verdad? Y creo que eso ya va un poquito amarrado a una de las preguntas que nos colocan en el chat, pero pues insisto, es una de las acciones que hemos estado realizando y hemos tenido una respuesta muy efectiva. Hemos tenido alcances de hasta 126,000 reproducciones de un webinar, claro, y es muy evidente cuando el tema le interesa al docente, ¿verdad? Que podemos abordar diferentes temas que obviamente van alineados al CNB, a las acciones o a lo que debe conocer el docente ante toda la comunidad educativa que está a su alrededor, entiéndase, alumnos, padres de familia, director, supervisor, etcétera, 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 ¿verdad? Sin embargo, cuando los temas son de interés, eh, pues ahí están, ¿verdad? Se conectan o lo reproducen y creo que eso ha sido una experiencia muy gratificante porque, pues, insisto, como lo decía antes, sí, es cierto, damos la oportunidad al que pueda y quiera se puede conectar, aunque tenemos pues ahí las limitantes, ¿verdad? Y por otro lado también pues estamos incursionando en el Moodle, que son pues cursos que tenemos en línea. Estamos todavía en esa construcción. Sin embargo, ahorita tenemos la puesta de un curso de ajedrez y tuvimos una respuesta muy efectiva. En menos de 24 horas, 3,000 docentes están pues ya inscritos. Pues eso ya habla de la bondad de esta plataforma, ¿verdad? Y finalmente, pues también empezando a trabajar en la formación inicial docente desde otro punto de vista. No sé si conozcan ustedes la historia acá en Guatemala, pero pues la formación inicial docente pasó de un magisterio a hacer un bachillerato en educación. Eso trajo una serie de desafíos, sin embargo, pues ahorita tenemos un decreto, el 4/2026, pues que ya nos vuelve a dar un giro para el tema de la formación inicial docente y fortalecer la preparación de los futuros docentes desde las escuelas normales, ¿verdad? Y pues trabajando en la estructura de esta nueva formación para quienes van a formar y que sea una acción para una trayectoria formativa durante 4 años con una especialización y también por ahí con una parte teórica, ¿verdad? Entonces, son algunas de las acciones que les puedo platicar que estamos realizando desde acá de Guatemala y pues ahí esperando escuchar también las experiencias de los otros países para saber en qué coincidimos y qué podemos seguir aprendiendo, ¿verdad? Así que muchas gracias, un gusto saludarles.
Perfecto, Nancy. Muchísimas gracias por el detalle, por comentarnos, digamos, estas diferentes estrategias, iniciativas. Y como tú lo dices, justamente ahora vamos a ver qué se viene, ¿no? Esta es una sesión un poco más introductoria para ir calentando motores, pero justamente la idea del intercambio, tanto dentro de nuestros países como con pares de otros países, va a ser un poco el espíritu de estas sesiones del taller que se vienen, ¿no? Nuevamente, Nancy, Lourdes, Ivonne, Mario, muchísimas gracias. Seguro hay otras experiencias que se quedan en el tintero de otros países y lo vamos a seguir viendo en las siguientes sesiones. Así que te doy el pase, Dante, para que nos cuentes un poquito temas de procedimiento y metodológicos de los próximos
Bueno,
pasos.
bueno, muchísimas gracias, Pedro, y a las y los colegas, Mario, Ivonne, en orden, digamos, Lourdes, Nancy. Yo creo que voy a solo hacer, enseguida comento esto, pensábamos hacer, perdón, esto es
Mm.
infidencia, pensábamos hacer dos sesiones, dos salas, porque dijimos, bueno, puede ser que necesitamos trabajar, digamos, para recabar información, ideas, bueno, experiencias, pero claramente las experiencias que lo que nos contaron, digamos, es muy valioso. Entonces, bueno, nos quisimos quedar en esta sala para que todo el mundo escuchara las experiencias que ustedes y los casos que estaban comentando. Voy a hacer, pon la presentación si quieres, Maggie, en pantalla, pero solo un listado de los temas que anoté y que aparecieron en esta conversación en las cuatro intervenciones, ¿sí? Acompañamiento, materiales, acompañamiento permanente durante el año, materiales, docentes nobles, ¿sí? Oferta formativa, ¿cuál es la oferta formativa de calidad? Uso de tecnología, Moodle, formación modalidad híbrida, formación pensando en los procesos, más que en el one-off, más que en un momento, un curso específico y se acaba, cómo se piensa la formación en proceso, algo que decía Ivonne, que nos parece fundamental, la agencia docente, sí, y cuál es el rol activo del docente, motivación intrínseca, no solo extrínseca, que están pensados por los sistemas de evaluación, monitoreo. Muchos países, y esto lo digo porque lo sabemos de la región, muchos países ofrecen formación, pero no tienen unos sistemas que vayan indicando en su monitoreo cuáles son los cursos que los docentes han tomado previamente. Entonces, si un docente toma un curso hoy día A, cuál es el curso B, el curso C, y cómo se van desarrollando esas trayectorias formativas. Sobre eso todavía no tenemos, los países tienen que avanzar probablemente en esa dirección para entender esas trayectorias de formación. Bueno, y así sucesivamente. Todos temas, te anoté 7 u 8 temas que son claves en esta conversación. Y para cerrar muy rápido, para no gastarnos, digamos, ya y que se nos pase mucho el tiempo, bueno, la idea es que hicimos esta primera sesión, este Inception Meeting, ¿sí? Entonces vamos a hacer ahora, durante julio-agosto, vamos a hacer el segundo taller en septiembre. Y la idea es dejar los invitados a que revisen los materiales del curso, ¿sí? Que es un curso, digamos, instructivo, ¿sí? Y por lo tanto, ese está disponible. Y la idea es que podamos, ¿sí? Les vamos a mandar después de esta reunión, la idea es que les vamos a mandar un formulario y ustedes puedan eventualmente decirnos si quieren compartir algún caso, quieren compartir algún caso específico. Y la idea es que nos juntemos en septiembre a discutir un poco en la línea, Dante, sin hablar tanto, en esa segunda sesión en septiembre, y que podamos pensar más en una modalidad, según taller, que lo pensemos más en modalidad de diagnóstico de nuestro sistema. Todos los que nos compartieron, los distintos programas que nos compartieron, quizás pueden servir como ejemplo para mirarlos críticamente o evaluarlos, sus bondades, pero también sus debilidades. Ojo, ¿sí? Bondades y fortalezas y debilidades, y quizás un buen ejercicio de que sí, que no. Ya lo decía Nancy, lo decía, tenemos una plataforma, bueno, quienes no están accediendo a esa plataforma, ¿sí? Tenemos programas de acompañamiento, bueno, ¿cuáles son las características de las personas que apoyan y que hacen ese acompañamiento? ¿A quiénes están llegando? ¿Zonas urbanas? ¿Zonas rurales remotas? Bueno, son las preguntas que probablemente nos tenemos que hacer desde esta lógica de la equidad y la calidad. Y por lo tanto, la idea es que lleguemos a este segundo taller, hagamos un segundo taller en septiembre y miremos estos casos, que sería muy interesante que podamos,
It would
que
be
podamos
very
conversar.
interesting
Todos los que
if you
participen,
could tell us
podemos seleccionar
more,
uno o dos casos
the people that
específicos
participate of this
que podemos
session,
seleccionar y podemos
one or
conversar
two
sobre eso
cases per
para que
country.
veamos cuáles
We
son los
can pick
desafíos.
them
Y
and
eso,
see what
vamos a
are
hacer
the
eso el
takeaways.
día,
And then we will have a third
de
session
noviembre.
towards the
Damos
end
un
of
rango, yo creo
November
que como
where we
de
might have something nice as
20
learning
casos.
and a compendium, a compilation of things that we will be working on during these next 5 months or so, and everything that we will be doing during the second session and in the meantime. So that's the plan. I saw some messages. Some of you are interested already in participating, so we have to continue with the process. And yeah, we wanted to have a collaborative process and for you to have the voice, to take the floor. So that's all, Pedro. I don't know if you want to say anything. Well, dear colleagues, thank you very much. All of you who joined us, the colleagues who have participated, who share their thoughts and their experiences for their countries. So we will be seeing each other, we'll stay in touch, and we will see each other again in the second session in September. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dante. Yeah, we are wrapping this up. So if we can move on to the next slide for you to have that information. There's going to be also the conceptual note which we share with you in the invitation and also in the emails that we will send you to sign up for these 2 coming sessions. We will have the sessions in September and November. The one for September, we will start developing a project, as Dante said. You will leave that session not only with the discussion and the sharing, but also a concrete product of an analysis of some example of professional development programs for some country and using our lens of the TPD at scale approach, which is what Dante was sharing with us today. We will work in work groups, and in the session of November, we will conclude the analysis of these initiatives, and we will provide some room for the presentation and discussion of your products by the delegations of each country. We will also see if we can have some guests to share their testimonies and to bring life to this discussion. All of this information will be shared with you, of course, in a timely manner, and in the next slide, just to wrap this up, you are going to see 2 QR codes which will take you to the framework of TPD at scale, as well as the open course of TPD at scale that we mentioned, and the links are also being shared right now in the chat of the platform. So, in wrapping up, we want to thank the whole team of the KIX Lab Hub and for the TPD Empowerment Program, especially Dante Castillo. Also, thank you all for being here and making this space possible. We will be in touch with all of you in order to share a summary of this session, all of the materials, the presentations in all languages, as well as the next steps. So, we ask you to continue working with the self-paced virtual course and to keep your eyes peeled for the signing up process for the upcoming sessions of the workshop. Before finishing this session, I would like to invite you all to turn on your cameras to take a picture of the whole group. So hopefully you will join us in the future, and we just something to show for this session and what we will continue doing the next part of the year. So Maggie, you let me know when we're ready. Please turn on your cameras if you can.
Sí, estoy esperando. Hay más cámaras.
Yes, I'm just waiting for as many people as possible to turn on their cameras. We have some 35 to 40 participants. We are still missing some cameras. All right, I believe that we are ready to take the photo, Maggie. Yes, on the count of 3, a big smile. 1, 2, 3. Say cheese. All right, fantastic. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your time and commitment in our. Thank you all very much and have a nice day.